So, so maybe we start just talking about like men's mental health, kind of like what you think it means and why you think it's something that like men can't really talk about. Maybe.
Who's going first?
Who would like to take it?
Well, so I think it's a really important conversation and a topic because it isn't nearly talked about enough, and it's a national conversation. I think it's one of those things that is stigmatized, stereotyped, and there are a whole load of sociological and psychological barriers and challenges that prevent men from talking about it. I think that these are perpetuated by policing. By that I mean colleagues and peers reinforcing these subconsciously, particularly in and around schools. So I went to an all-boys school, played rugby growing up. So being around hyper-masculine environments, I found it very much that the people around you, especially as teenage boys, you all have you all have this idea that you need to be tough, that you need to be boisterous, and stepping away from that risks kind of societal exclusion.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't go to an all-boys school, but I went to a very small school, and the guys that I went to school with, they were all kind of stereotypical lads, and all they would do was talk about girls and all the girls that they got with, and that's kind of like not my shtick. They were all very, like you said, like hyper-masculine lads, and that's just like not me. And they never actively ostracized me, but there was definitely like a real kind of unspoken, we know that I'm different type thing. I'm also very open about the fact that I'm bisexual, and I'm not super feminine, but I'm also not, I'm definitely nowhere near masculine. And where I was at school at the time, I didn't feel like I could properly express myself. I didn't feel like I could be kind of the person that I wanted to portray myself as, because I would just get shut down for it. And like I said, they never actively ostracized or bullied me, but there was always this kind of unspoken tension of they kind of know that they don't really like me because of who I was.
I would come from the angle of being sexualized on social media. You post a picture or you do something and then you get comments of being sexualized, or even when you're at the gym or something, you can't even actively talk about it because you're a guy, and then you have like some ladies making comments at you and all of that, and it feels like you just have to all take it in because you're a guy. And if you do that on the other side, obviously you'll get called out for all of that. Sometimes, coming down to the UK, I just realized that catcalling is a crime. So if catcalling is a crime against men, do they have catcalling against for men as well? If there's a case like that, so we find out that we can't even, we are always sexualized. We can't even talk about it or anything like that. So it feels like you're in that box, but you can't say anything about it. You just have to let it go and all of that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm definitely not disagreeing with you, but at the same time, on the flip side of that, if you don't get that kind of thing happening to you, it still feels like a bad thing. It still feels like you're not worth enough, and you're not worth the kind of like, people kind of paying attention to you. And if you don't have, like you said, like that perfect gym body, or you're not a certain height, or you don't look a certain way, then it feels equally as negative, because it feels like you're not worth the attention that some of the other guys are getting, because they've got the ideal kind of male standard.
I think this all touches on the idea that men do face specific challenges and specific problems. And I think that's the biggest thing that hasn't been trendy to speak about, that hasn't been trendy to recognise or identify in recent years. Until now, and still is the case now, right? But everything that both of you are talking about, those are things that maybe traditionally people might not think about when talking about men's mental health, right?
Can I ask? Obviously, this is going to be called out, but we've talked about how men are expected to be masculine and sexualized, although they're not allowed to like speak openly about it. The same way as a woman, when I'm sexualized, I can be like, oh, why sexualizing me and stuff like that. How do we feel about the impact of the conversations that people would like society pressure around, like, oh, men don't cry, men shouldn't be vulnerable, men have to be masculine, a certain way, how do you think this actually impacts people's day-to-day life and also their mental health, and how this has also like maybe played a role in their ability to open up about emotions and mental health? How do we actually feel about this topic?
Yes, it's a good point. I think it's rarely day to day, because when we talk about psychological challenges, they can be cumulative, right, over a lifetime. So everything those barriers and those stigmas that you were talking about, whether it's opening up about emotions, whether it's talking about one's own mental health, those are things that as growing up we experience, like I said, stigma towards. I'm sure both of you can attest to this, that if you were to talk about feeling sad or feeling down if you're in school, possibly I experienced it, like even towards your parents or family members, people wouldn't know how to react or wouldn't act the same way if you weren't a man, if you weren't a boy.
I agree, and I've always felt quite embarrassed and almost ashamed if I feel that I kind of like need an outlet for whatever it is that I'm dealing with. One of my earliest memories, and it makes me really, really sad now, because my father and I, we have a really good relationship now, but one of my earliest memories of him is unfortunately him shouting at me to stop crying. I can't remember what it was about now, but it was about stop crying, and the idea of that you shouldn't be crying. You're a man, you shouldn't be crying, and that is tough. And I didn't cry for a very, very long time, and even now, when I do, I do feel very embarrassed, or if I have to look to my girlfriend for support, and I'm like, I'm dealing with this, and I do, if I start crying, I feel really small, and I feel really almost childish, and I thinking to myself, like, grow up, this isn't like, you don't need to be doing this, you know what's going on. And I started counselling recently, and even then, even in like such a safe space where it's massively encouraged, I still couldn't let myself cry. Well, I did, but I still felt bad even in that like given safe space. I just couldn't let go of that not wanting to.
Something you just pointed out right now, and it's more of like how we express our feelings and how we want to talk about stuff. And as humans, generally, we find it difficult to piece the words together on how we want to express ourselves. And then when we finally find the courage as men to express ourselves, we may not get all the words entirely together, and we find ourselves expressing it for the longest. And then you hear someone saying, "You talk too much for a guy." I mean, how am I supposed to express myself? How am I supposed to say things if I'm not able to talk and express it? Or you hear them saying, "Why are you too loud? You're a guy. You shouldn't be doing this." So there's that. You're a man. You're a man. You're a guy. You're supposed to give me your jacket. You're a guy. You're a guy. I'm like, okay, so is my body built with metal and all of that? So so there's this certain expectation that from men, I have the same skin, I have the same color, I have the same blood that flows through you, but there's certain expectations you're expecting from me because, quote unquote, I'm a guy, and that's just very confusing sometimes.
Yeah, we're very much kind of expected to be like very like unbothered by everything, and we sort of just like take everything in our stride, and like you say, it's like, "Oh, give me your jacket," and we're sort of just meant to be like yeah, and of course, I will give my girlfriend my jacket because I don't want her to be cold, but I get the point that you're trying to make of it's sort of just certain things are just expected because we're meant to just be able to take it in our stride, no matter what that is, whether it's something like giving someone your jacket or something really potentially detrimental to your mental health, but it's still like, well, you're meant to be able to deal with it. Why are you getting upset? You should be able to just cope with this.
I think this is really interesting because you're almost talking about nonchalance in a way,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And I think it's almost a perception of a perception in a way. I think that men think, people want them to be stoic, right, and nonchalant. Whereas in reality, I don't think in reality that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
I think in reality, people are drawn to people who are energetic, who are passionate. So I think it comes down to those inbuilt societal stigmas and stereotypes, right? And it's all ingrained. Like we've all just spoken about some personal like instances where these have shown. But I think that idea of being stoic is something that we think we should be, rather than something people want us to be.
I think it is also largely down to like portrayal within media.
Yeah.
as well. I think I see not inherently just women, but like a lot of people, regardless, more drawn towards like the stereotypical cool character that's not unbothered, and they, you know, they fight battles and whatever, but they do it all in and they take it really easily, if that makes sense. So I think a lot of it comes from that, and the feeling of wanting to be like this kind of person that we put on a pedestal that is just able to do whatever they need to do, and it doesn't matter, and they can just get through it.
Something quite important is even us as men, we should begin to embrace the fact that, because you see some cases where, okay, you're going through a breakup, instead of your guys coming close to you to, like, you know, talk to you and make you feel safe, and they start laughing at you, making you feel like you made a mistake and all of that. I mean, we're guys, we joke at almost everything, but we don't know the impact of what we're going through internally. So as guys, it will be awesome if we are aware of the situation we go through mentally as guys, to, you know, encourage ourselves. One of men's biggest failure is failure. Like their fear, rather. One of men's biggest fear is failure. Fear of being called a failure, or being a failure. You know, not showing up, not showing up as positive and all of that. So we have to wear that positive marks every time. It could be stressful sometimes.
Well, I think there's also it comes down to chasing status. I mean, this is something that is changing massively over the last 20 years. But because of the centuries, it's that thing of the patriarchy benefits no one, right? With having to go through centuries of kings and men being providers, and women not having rights, I think we still feel the effects of that nowadays. And that side of that patriarchy also negatively affecting men probably doesn't get talked about enough. Because you know, you were talking about those expectations, right, and things that men are expected to provide, and I think that there is more. I mean, we know that men are more likely to overthink and feel anxious about their career, and feel anxious about their status within society as well.
Yeah, there was a time, like a period of time a while ago, where I didn't have a job and my girlfriend did. It was just kind of a point within our life, and I felt, so she was paying for a lot of things for me, and I felt so emasculated, and I felt this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this, even though I know logically it's not. Emotionally, it felt wrong, and I was telling myself, I was like, why are you getting so worked up about this? Why are you almost like so embarrassed about this?
Yeah.
You don't have a job at the moment. You can't afford to pay for maybe some of the nice things that you were before, and she loves you. She's trying to do a nice thing, but I just couldn't get past the idea of, but I should be the one paying. I should be the one paying. And she doesn't necessarily expect me to pay for everything, but I still feel like I need to, and wherever I can, I will always put my phone on the reader first and move her out of the way, just because I feel like I should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think when we talk about these, it can be difficult to challenge these kind of presuppositions because they are so ingrained, right? Yeah. Like we talk about challenging stereotypes, and we talk about challenging myths about masculinity or being men. Yeah. But when they are so ingrained into the subconscious of society, how is that possible?
It's not possible.
It's not just the fact that they're so ingrained, and they are. I'm not agreeing, but it's that, but also the fact that there's a lot of people that still heavily subscribe to it.
Yes.
I think it's all well and good us sitting here and saying, it's so ingrained subconsciously, because we don't believe that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that do, and there's a lot of people that don't necessarily want that to change. And I think that's like, a lot of people are still very much within that mindset and haven't moved forward, and still think it is the man's job to pay. A lot of people from the older generations who that's definitely how they were brought up. Yeah. But then older generations have passed that down to their sons, grandsons, etc.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to change overnight.
No.
We see social media even giving a booster to these stereotypes. You find out that I stumbled upon a post one time. If you're 23 and you're not driving a Lamborghini, what are you doing? And then it's more like, why the pressure? And then you find out young people are taking this and the pressure is it's just a lot on younger generations trying to make a living and trying to get themselves. They feel like, oh, I've not gotten this at this age, and I think I'm not going to make it. I feel, and then the anxiety steps in, and then you begin to fall back, and it just keeps going around. So I think the first step to break the stereotypes will be just changing the narrative from social media. Social media needs to change.
Yeah, and that's why initiatives like this are so important.
Yeah.
Because they get eyes on them, and it's that thing of, keep knocking on that door, and eventually it'll fall down.
Yeah.
Right. And I think your point, Jeff, about social media and online is really, really pertinent. Like, we've seen the rise of the manosphere in recent years, right? Influencers like Andrew Tate, Aidan Ross, Jordan Peterson, all of these people who do perpetuate those harmful behaviours and harmful stereotypes is awful, because particularly to young people, right? We're trying to do initiatives like this, and nationally there's this movement, but it's almost like one step forward, two steps back.
Yep.
Because
Exactly.
for every, similar to what you were saying, is for every one person that is trying to change things, there's almost 1.5 who aren't, right?
Yeah, I think social media is detrimental to a lot of things, to be honest, but within this conversation, very much towards men's mental health. I think so much. I remember even like as young as like 11 and 12, I was already concerned about, am I not skinny enough, or have I not got big enough muscles? I was 11.
Yeah.
I was like this tall, and you could throw me across a football field, and I was still already concerned. And I remember my parents having to sit me down and tell me it doesn't matter, but I still couldn't get past it because I'd seen it on social media. And I think social media so easily perpetuates a lot of these negative stereotypes by creating echo spaces, echo chambers, and giving voices to people that, to be honest, should definitely not have voices.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you, but
That's
what you just said now just reminded me of something that happened to me personally, and I can share it either ways. So growing up among my peers, I was always called the short man, like, where's the short guy? And it's easy to just refer me as the short guy. So I was talking to my friend, if you go to my social media, you'll find more pictures of myself. And there's a reason why. I have never been complimented as a cute guy, ever. I have never gotten that compliment as, oh, he's cute. I don't know what it feels like. I don't know how it feels like to get compliments. But, growing up now, I get those compliments. And sometimes I feel like, oh my God, what's happening? Is it true, or are they just, making a mockery of me? Because I don't know what it feels like to get the compliments of, oh, he's cute. He has a nice beard. Oh, you look gorgeous. You dress nice. I never got those compliments. So.
I think it's a really good point. I think the way that men get complimented is really like for us, getting a genuine compliment means so much, because it's like the closest thing I've had to a compliment in the last few weeks is people going, your beard's looking big. And it's like, well, that's neither here nor there, right? It's you just assume.
Yeah. So speaking about this as well, sometimes it's easy to call it, oh, you're getting fat, oh, you're getting skinny. So it's just easy to just say those things carelessly without knowing what the person is going through, and you're not paying attention to what the person is feeling or how the person is feeling like.
Yeah, and I think compliments about personality and appearance, I think they're both, and I'm on about positive ones, right? Like, I think compliments with those are, I think men get much less of them.
Yes.
Easily, like without a doubt, the ratio, quote unquote, if you want to put it that way, from the amount of compliments that women get compared to men is like 20 to 1, easily.
And then when you ask for a compliment, they feel like, why are you asking for a compliment?
Yeah. And then you look like an attention seeker, or you look like full of yourself.
Yeah.
Or you like, oh, what, do you think that much of yourself?
Yeah,
or,
and you get cancelled. So it's like, you can't do this, but you can do this. And when you do this, you're not supposed to do this because you're this. And then it gets that whole confusion.
Yeah, well, again, it goes back to what I said about you're just meant to be unbothered.
Yeah.
About, like, you shouldn't want to ask for compliments, and you shouldn't want them But if you don't get them, well, then that doesn't matter either. Why are you so worried about it?
Yeah. Like, why are you getting giddy because someone said you look nice? Like,
Yeah, I was at a coffee shop yesterday meeting my grandparents for coffee, and one of the waitresses walked past and said, "Oh, you've got nice hair. You've got cool curly hair," and like that made the rest of my day. I was like, "Oh, that's really literally." Or like someone complimented my glasses a while ago, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool because someone's gone out of their way to be nice."
Yeah.
And someone that didn't have to do that, and they've gone out of their way to be nice, and that makes a really, really big impact. And genuinely, without wanting to sound super cliche, does kind of make my day.
Yeah.
No.
We're done. We can go all in on.
Almost done. One more thing. What's one thing you would have told your younger self about, like, just tell your younger self around, like, being a man and being masculine?
But can you keep it short, please? Because I'm gonna have.
You guys are not giving us cue, and we're just talking off.
No, it's really good. I think the main thing, I think you'll be able to, like, cut out.
You're giving her more work.
Sorry, the second bit is what would you tell men around opening up and how it's okay to just talk about their emotions?
Yeah, I'd say
Keep it
advice.
very
I'd just say stick with
Stick.
advice for other men and
Okay.
how you think they can
Okay.
open up because that's a good end to the
Yeah.
video,
Okay.
I reckon.
I think it's important not to overthink it. I think when we start talking about conversations about this, you can almost feel like, oh, well, I have to cry or I have to talk about this. Whereas I think it's more important to just realise that as men we can, and as men it's good to, but that isn't going to come overnight. Right? It starts with opening up to people you're closest with, and then that can lead to more impactful and more important conversations with friends and peers.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's important to obviously acknowledge it, but not make a big deal out of it and not turn it into this grand spectacle, because that then kind of almost takes away from it and adds more pressure. Even though it's meant to be positive, it kind of adds more pressure of, oh, well, you need to open up and you need to do this, and then it kind of pushes me back more rather than it feeling natural. So it's something that needs to be talked about, but kind of gently, for lack of better wording.
Yeah. I think it's also it's high time we start building the men community and easy to like those communities that you can easily relate with. Do things together. If you pray together. Go golfing, swimming together, and it's easy to like bond with men and easy to express yourself where you're welcomed. Catch up and easy. So my friends and I, we do this every weekend where we bond over video games, and then after about an hour of video games, we take out 30 minutes to ask ourselves, how you doing, man? Like literally,
really good.
how are you doing? What's the problem? Is there anything you want to share? Sometimes we discuss of it over whiskey, and they're like, yeah, you know what? And then when we're done, we're like, 2 shots for you, man, for the week.
It makes it a bit easier to open up.
Yeah.
A bit of liquid courage.
Yeah. So
I think sometimes as well it's useful to have someone that like isn't close to you and maybe isn't going to hold judgment. Sounds really silly, but I work at a shop, and there was a customer that came in that was clearly having a bad day, and I asked her how she was doing, and then the next time that she came in, she asked me how I was doing. And from that point on, we've kind of got this back and forth. I don't even know her name.
Oh,
But
interesting.
we talk back and forth about like, oh, how's it going? Are you still dealing with this, or am I still dealing with whatever it was last time? So sometimes an anonymous kind of or unconnected third party that doesn't know you personally and isn't going to hold judgment, it's quite good to sort of just get it off and just get rid of it.
I think it's important as well. You mentioned it earlier, but to demystify counselling as well. Right, you don't go if there's something wrong with you. That's therapy. Counselling is something where you talk to somebody about anything and everything on a regular or semi-regular basis. I've been doing it for 2 years now, and I can safely say it's changed my life. Right, like I said, sometimes we can get really deep, and other times not. But I think it can really help men as well talk about their feelings, and that goes back to what you were saying about having someone that is non-judgmental.
Yeah, definitely. I think just having that space to offload and also just to validate you as well and say everything that you're feeling, this isn't weird, like you're human at the end of the day. And I felt quite, again, a little bit embarrassed to be going to counselling, and I haven't told any of my friends. The only person I've told is my girlfriend. And no, I had a point and I've forgotten it.